eventually, I think your clients are a reflection of you and vice versa. I'm also a reflection of them. Like eventually in the long run, it's only going to work out with the guys that see the world the same way you do.
Hi, I'm Nick Warner. As a dad, a lucky husband, and as a business coach, I value people and relationships above all else. But next is winning, sustainability, and healthy culture. I've been a business owner for 25 years and served for decades as a special advisor to business and government leaders at all levels. Let's just say I've seen some stuff. My passion and my expertise are helping motivated professionals and businesses find the highest level confluence of what they want in life and business. This is what it feels like to be together at the top. Thank you to our sponsors, Scholl's Brick and Rogaski, Three Bridges Consulting, Kathy Olson at Ships and Trips, and Connect Strategies. Rafa Nieves is a big-time Major League Baseball agent, and he's the CEO founder of Republik Sports. I met Rafa 15 years or so ago, somewhere in between his personal baseball career coming to an end, managing the hottest nightclubs in Miami, and him contemplating his next big move to LA to pursue being a Major League Baseball agent. Rafa represents several of the biggest names in the sport. He currently represents over 20 Major League Baseball players, including Alex Colon, the talented closer from the Tampa Bay Rays, Gregory Polanco from the Pirates, and I have to tell you, Rafa, my favorite player in baseball this year, Teoscar Hernandez, right fielder, all-star, and 2024 Home Run Derby champion from my Los Angeles Dodgers, Teoscar Hernandez. I love that guy. Rafa, I really loved meeting Teoscar when we were together in LA. What a nice guy. So our goal for today is to learn life and business lessons from you, from your experience and your perspective. Where are you today? And please say hello to the listeners of Together at the Top.
Hi guys. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for having me, Nick. My name is Rafael Nieves. Right now I'm home. I'm in LA. I'm enjoying a little bit of home time before we get into the October baseball, the postseason, and God knows where I have to travel. It's all to be determined right now.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to the baseball players for sure. Let's go backward to go forward, Rafa. I've been fortunate to get to know some of your story, but honestly, I left some of it alone because you were gracious enough to agree to the podcast, and I wanted to hear some of it along with the listeners. But tell us about growing up and your journey from Venezuela at 16 years old, your baseball story as a player, and what would eventually, lead you to being an agent. But start in Venezuela for us, if you would.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Caracas, middle-class family. Both my parents were dentists. A lot of people in my family were actually dentists. My sister, one of my grandmothers, big dentist family. And I did not go into the medical field at all. I actually hated it. I was scared of it. I couldn't go to the dentist, and I still can't. I have like PTSD because my dad was my dentist, and he would do my cleanings, and he wasn't very soft on me. So growing up in Caracas, we used to live very close to a baseball field. So every day we have to drive past a baseball field on the way home. And this is what I hear today from my mom, because I was 3 years old, and she tells me that we would drive by and I would see all these kids playing outside, and I wanted to go play with them. And I was too little to go play. So I was kind of frustrated, and I had to wait until I was like 5 or 6 or something for her to be able to sign me up to go play T-ball, whatever it was. But ever since then, she said that I had this, I was so attracted to those, to that baseball field and to those kids playing outside, that it was all I would think about and talk about. So then, fast forward a couple of years, she signed me up and I started playing. It became a passion. It became an obsession. And that's all I did, was just play outside, play baseball. And ever since I was that age, I always told my mom I was going to be a professional baseball player at that age. So I guess that was already in my cards since I was little. So I went through middle school, high school playing baseball. I think when I became a teenager, around maybe 11, 12, 13, I started separating myself from the pack, where you could see that I had some talent. Physically, I was tall, I was athletic, there was some tools there. And, there were coaches that were telling my parents, hey, he could be a very good player if he really, wants to. He could pursue a career in this. And I remember I think I was 12. I could have been 13, but I think I was 12. I had already been talking about this for 5, 6 years, telling my parents that I was going to be a professional baseball player. And I remember vividly having a conversation with my dad at dinner, where he said to me, if you do you really want to be a professional baseball player? And I said, yeah, that's the only thing I want to do in my life. Hit me between the eyes, and he said, if that's really what you want to be, if that's really what you want to do, I'll support you. I'll do everything in my power to help you pursue that dream. But this is a commitment that you can turn around later and not want to do it, because it comes with a lot of sacrifices. It comes with a lot of work. So on Saturday, when your friends are going to a barbecue, or they're going to the beach and they're hanging out with girls, and you have to, you have a tournament, or you have to go work out, there's no, there's no switching lanes. There's no, I don't want to go. If you're going to do this, you have to be serious. I was all in. So we started that journey, and I went from practicing, once or twice a week, to a 4 or 5 day program, with more tournaments, with more games, and I did that for the next 4 or 5 years. And then I got the attention of a lot of scouts. Eventually, I was recruited by an agent. His name was Manny Lantigua. He was from the Dominican Republic. He had a lot of connections with major league clubs. And then in the spring of 2000, he set up some showcases in Florida, and we flew there. And there was probably a dozen major league clubs that came to these showcases. And within a month, I had a couple offers from major league clubs. I was 16. This is March of 2000. I turned 17 in August. So at 16, I had offers from major league clubs, and eventually signed in April of 2000 at 16. And I left home right away. I got, then a couple of weeks later, I was put on a flight. I had to get my work visa and all those things aligned. And then I was on the go. I was on a plane to Florida by myself at 16 years old. I arrived in Lakeland, Florida. The Detroit Tigers. I don't know if I mentioned that, but out of those clubs that offered me, I ended up signing with the Detroit Tigers. And then I arrived in Lakeland, which is where they have their spring training facilities and their Florida headquarters. And I was there. I was the youngest player there. There were players there anywhere from 17 to 22, and I wasn't even 17 yet. So that was a good learning experience, because it put me in an environment with more mature people, with adults, grown-ups, guys that have been in the system for 2, 3 years. And I had to grow up really fast. This is not a game anymore. This is serious. You're here pursuing a career. You're here competing with guys that are fighting for their life. Like, guys that come from all over the world, where this is their only ticket out of poverty, where this is their ticket. They call it their ticket out of the island. And I had to really make adjustments and become a man really fast.
What about language, Ruff? I mean, you're cross country at 16. I'm thinking about my kids who were well adjusted and great at 16, across the planet in some ways and not speaking the language.
Well, growing up in a middle class family, I was fortunate enough to go to a good school, where I learned, we learn English, or we study English. We didn't really learn, but you study it since you were in kindergarten, elementary school. So I had the basics. I had a foundation, and then knowing where I was headed and what my goals were, I started taking. I had an aunt that was a English professor, she started tutoring me when I was 14 years old. I learned English before, before I came here. However, when I say I learned English, it was mostly, the grammar. Like I could read it and write it. I could not speak it.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot of English watching Friends. Yeah, that was my favorite show, and I will watch it in Venezuela in English with the subtitles in Spanish, so I could hear what they were saying, and I would read it in Spanish, and I could understand it. That's how I learned my basics, and then, but obviously, you have to get thrown in the water to swim. It wasn't until I got here that I actually started. It took me a little bit to get fluent, but that's how I did it. Preparation is the key to success. So I knew, okay, when I turned 16, because major league clubs have a rules for international free agency, and you can't sign until you're 16 and a half. So I knew that I had to wait until I was 16 and a half, or basically I have to wait until the year 2000 to sign. So, in 98, 97, I started preparing for that day. And part of that is not just preparing as a baseball player, but you also have to prepare, the things off the field. And English was one of them. But honestly, I didn't speak fluently until I was 17.
We appreciate your time. If you like what you've heard so far, do me a favor and leave a 5-star review and share with your friends. We'll be right back. The law firm of Scholes, Brick & Rogaski is a go-to partner for me. I work the most with partner Michael Rogaski. I go to them for business contracts, strategic legal counsel to maneuver through or around complex business situations, HR and employee issues, startup needs, intellectual property protections, collection matters, and recently the purchase or sale of a business. I really like the fact they tell me if they're not the best fit, and they give me a warm referral if I need it. Also, unlike so many attorneys, they're totally level-headed and calm. I've experienced it like their slogan says, small firm service, large firm result. Contact Michael Rogaski at sbrlawsd.com. Kathy Olson at Ships and Trips is as creative and as willing a travel partner as you can find. These days, you can plan a lot of trips on your own, but for those trips that require more intricate planning, tons of time, or local contacts and savvy, Kathy's the best. My family and friends have worked with her countless times in every travel country, setting, and season you can think of. Contact Kathy with a C at shipsandtripstravel.com. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and talk about trauma-informed leadership, which was not on my radar until I interviewed somebody early on in the series, and she called me after, a CEO, president of a company, and said, you should have asked me about trauma in my background because my leadership style and commitment and drive is largely informed by traumas in my life. I think your dad died when you were 18, Rafa?
No, I was actually still 17. So it was this same year.
Jeez.
So I signed with the Tigers in April. I left to Florida a couple of weeks later. I was in Florida for like 2 or 3 months, and major league clubs have an affiliate minor league level, which is a rookie level in the Dominican Republic. It's called the Dominican Summer League, and all 30 clubs have an affiliate down there. So after the draft back then, the MLB draft was in June. They signed, the Tigers drafted a bunch of guys, and then we have too many guys. Because of my age, they preferred to send me down to the Dominican Summer League to play there and then bring me back the following year, because these guys that come from the draft, they're 18, 19, 21, 22. So they have to slot them ahead of me because of their age. So they sent me back to the Dominican Republic in June, and I played there June, July, August, and I went home in September for the offseason. My dad passed away in November, and it was a sudden death. I was with him at his clinic. The guy that represented me, that agent that I mentioned before, his name was Manny. Manny was in town to scout some other players and to visit me. And my dad he went to see my dad, and my dad was doing a cleaning for him. And we were going to go out to dinner after. And I was coming from a workout, and I dropped off Manny at my dad's clinic, and I left him there, and I went home to take a shower, get dressed, and we were gonna meet for dinner an hour later. And then when I got home, I jump in the shower, and my brother starts banging on my door, and he tells me that I need to hurry because apparently dad fainted. He was walking downstairs, and he got lightheaded and he fainted. So I got dressed really quick and I rushed back. It was like 15 minutes away, and when I got there, my dad was outside laying on the sidewalk, and he was gone.
Some ways, I don't even know what to ask after that. I only know the day we spent together between family motivating you and your dad's death motivating you in some ways had a huge impact on your, I mentioned trauma-informed leadership because that's what you are now. It's early in the interview and early in your, evolution of this story to talk about how it impacted you, but it had to have impacted you hugely, negative and maybe positive later.
Yeah. First it was negatively. I was just 17. I was not fully developed as a man, anything, you know. And he was my backbone. To lose that like overnight was traumatizing. And yeah, it had a negative impact for a lot of years, which I'm sure we'll get into it. But that was part of the beginning of the beginning of the end of my playing career, because that was something that totally derouted me. But you know what? It's through that adversity that began at that day that built the character that I have today, and the work ethic that I have today, and the drive that I have today. So yeah, eventually it eventually affected me positively, but I think for about a decade it was a rocky path, bumpy path.
Anybody who's not spellbound by this interview or has had goosebumps a couple times, hit pause and leave us because this is really good and really compelling. And I've had goosebumps several times. I'm spellbound by a lot of your words. Let's get a little more in the weeds. I know we're skipping over some years, and I think you'll end up going back, as you answer some of the questions and we dive deeper into your story. But you work with lawyers, MBAs at the highest level, the highest educated professionals in your peer class as an agent. I don't think you have a degree. You're quoted in the 2022 Forbes article, Rafa, on sports agents as a career path, talking about running South Beach nightclubs in your formative years and two billionaires wanting the same table. And your quote was, I love this, Harvard Law School is not going to teach you how to handle that. What are some of your comments on emotional and experiential intelligence versus book learned? And then how do you piece it together? Because you have to know the law and you have to know money.
Yeah, I mean, I never went to college after, I after my playing career was over a couple of years later, which maybe we'll get back into that. I got into the hospitality industry, and then eventually got out of it for outside reasons, moved to LA and started working as an intern at a small boutique agency. And I learned, shadowing other agents and just being in the office. I learned everything that you need to learn in this industry. It wasn't overnight. I was at that firm for 7 years, and then I went to another firm that is a much larger agency, multi-sport, multinational.
That's Wasserman, correct?
Yeah, then I went to Wasserman. So today I have 13 years of experience in this industry, and I can tell you that the stuff that we do in our industry, you're never going to learn that at school. We have interns, law school students every summer. I had them at Beverly Hills. We had them at Wasserman, and those guys come. They're highly qualified, but they don't have experience in the workplace. They have zero skills. The education system in America is broken. Probably 80% of the colleges in America probably add no value. You just go there because it's what you're taught since you're little, that you have to graduate high school and then go to college and get that 4-year degree. But then when you go out there to the real world and jump into the workforce, you can't get a job because you're not qualified, because you have no experience on anything. I've had law students that intern for me that don't even know how to apply for a credit card, don't even know how to do their taxes. They don't even know how to go and rent a car. One time I was here in LA and I had to go to Lancaster, which is like, I don't know, a 2 hour drive. And I was riding there with someone. I had to come back. So I told the intern to go rent a car and meet me at the game in Lancaster. So then we could drive back together. He couldn't rent a car because he didn't have a credit card and he didn't know how to apply for a credit card. And he also didn't know how to rent a car. And these are things that you learn in life, being maybe not necessarily in the workforce, but just to have an experience in life. And as an agent, we wear a lot of hats for our guys. I mean, anything from they have legal questions, medical questions, immigration questions, baseball questions. Like, you really have to be like a Swiss Army knife. You don't get this knowledge without doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. Building a network of people that you can reach out and get those answers, because I'm not a doctor, but once I have a player that blows his knee and he has to go seek a second opinion on his ACL, I have to talk to that doctor and I have to know what we're talking about, and I have to have that network with the doctors, and that only comes with experience. Like, you're not going to learn that at Harvard Law School. And I've never met a player in 24 years in professional baseball that has asked an agent, where do you go to law school?
They're asking practical questions. I need help with this. I need help with that. Go back to shadowing, Rafa, because this is a show for leaders and emerging leaders. And you talked about being young-ish in business, but under-experienced in business when you switch careers, when you went from baseball to hospitality and then into entry levels, if you will, entry player levels, but entry levels of the sports agent industry. You mentioned shadowing, which comes with mentoring. Talk about that, because you sped your learning curve to market, it sounds like, by shadowing.
Yeah.
Which is a phrase I use that time in coaching, is ask in, go with them, go to the meeting with them. Talk about that, please.
I was living in Miami. This is around the time that you and I met, and I got engaged with Angela, who's my wife, and
who was an international model at the time, by the way, interestingly.
Thank you. I'll thank you for her.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were quite the couple. Are quite the couple.
She had a daughter, Isabella, who when we met, Bella was 3. When we got married, she was 6. And their residence was in California. So when we got engaged and we were planning on getting married in a year, Angela was not going to be able to move to Florida because of Bella. So I was going to have to move to California. So that's when I thought about switching careers, because I was working in hospitality, specifically in nightclubs, and the hours were rough and it was in a healthy environment, especially in South Beach. And also a lot of friends of mine that were in the industry were married once and they all end up getting divorced. And they told me, if you want your marriage to work, you need to get out of here. And I said, okay, well, now what am I going to do? Even if I want to stay in nightlife and hospitality, then the network and what I built in South Beach in Miami is worthless in another market, because I don't have those connections. I don't know anyone there. I'll have to start from scratch. If I'm going to start something from scratch, it might as well be something better, with more upside and better hours and healthier. So I was just trying to figure out what to do. And I said, one night I remember I was watching the VMAs with Angela and I was sitting on the couch and I'm just thinking and my head is spinning. I was like, what should I do? And then this is what popped in my head. I said, well, I have 2 backgrounds. I have a background in baseball and I have a background in hospitality, which was mostly customer service. It was VIP services. I work in high-end nightclubs in Miami, and I was in charge of all the VIPs. I was director of VIP services for this group that owns 7 venues in South Beach. So I was in charge of handling all the big spenders, the billionaires, the celebrities, all that. These people have, they're very demanding. They have, high expectations. They like the red carpet treatment and all that. And I thought, well, that's just, that's basically the same as athletes. And so I said, well, what can I do where I use both, my whole skill set? Because I know baseball and I know how to manage these type of people, like ultra high net worth people. And that's when it popped in my head. I said, well, basically, that's what talent managers do. I could be a talent manager in baseball. I bet you I could be good at that. The idea was born. I got on my computer the next morning and I Googled how to type a resume. And I never applied for a job in my life.
Unbelievable. What you just said there is unreal. That never dawned on me before. I never applied for a job in my life.
No, I went through baseball and then when my playing career was over, I stayed in Florida, didn't go back to Venezuela because things were getting really bad with Chavez socially and economically. So I stayed in Florida and one thing led to another and I ended up working in nightclubs. But it's not like I went through HR and I
Typed up a resume.
and interview for the job. No, that those things work out organically. So yeah, I had never applied for a job. So I Googled, how to build a resume. And that's what I did. And then I looked for all the talent agencies in LA that work with baseball players. And I sent my resume to all of them. I emailed all of them. And I got one callback. I got one response. And it was from an agency called Beverly Hills Sports Council. The guy that emailed me back was their like PR director. His name was Paul. I said, Paul emailed me back. He set up a call. I talked to him. He kind of like interviewed me over the phone. And then he said that, that they're interested in talking to me. He said he was going to set up an in-person interview. And the days that they were available for the in-person interview, I was going to be in LA visiting Angela. Actually, no, I take that back. He was going to set up a phone interview with one of the partners in the firm. And when he sent me the availability, I said, I'm actually in town those days in LA. Why don't I do this in person?
Smart.
So we did, and it was all coincidence. And I set up the in-person meeting. I didn't know who I was meeting. I went in there and, I went, I was wearing a suit with sneakers. I'm at this point, this is 2011. So I was 28 years old. I'm coming from Miami. Like unlike, people in New York or Chicago, like that, I'm coming from South Beach. So I'm wearing a suit with white sneakers. And I walked in, had this interview with one of the partners in the firm. His name was Rick Thurman. Interviewed me for about an hour, and I told him what I was doing, and he was bi-coastal at the time. He was living half the time in Miami, half the time in LA. So we bonded on that because he was spending a lot of time in Miami Beach, and I told him, look, I told him that I was moving to LA and I was looking for a career change, and I played in the minor leagues, and at this point, all the good guys that I started playing with were in the big leagues. So I had access to a lot of major league players like Omar Infante, Melky Cabrera, Francisco Cervelli, Jose Tabata. These are all guys that
Studs. Really good players, those three players, by the way.
Yeah. So those are guys that started with me and I had relationships with. And then also through the nightclubs, I had a lot of athletes that were coming through the door all the time. So that I thought it went well. And they said that they will be in touch, but they never got back to me. So, but I had this guy's Rick's number when he left. He gave me his cell phone number because we exchanged number because he was going to be in Miami. And I said, if you ever want to come to the club, like come through, I'll take care of you. I'll comp you a table, whatever. So I had his number, and then every time I had a player that was coming through the club, I would send him pictures. Every time one of my former teammates was in town and I was having lunch with him, I would send him a picture. I said, "Look, I have access to a lot of players," and he kept it cool, like that's great, but never very engaging. But I became more and more persistent. The more he gave me an inch, I will engage more and more because I was trying to build that relationship and that trust. And it took a few months. I think it took. I mean, we first met in September or October. It wasn't until February that I met with him again, and I said to him, "Look, I have a steady job, and I was making good money for, dude, this is 13 years ago. I was making six figures working in nightclubs. I was single with no kids, so I didn't need the income. I was just looking for an opportunity to see if I could do this job. And I went to Rick and I said, I'm not asking anything from you. All I want is an opportunity to see if I can do this job. I'm not looking for a salary. I'm not looking for a handout. Nothing. Give me a chance to see if I can do this job. I don't want you to pay me anything. If I need to fly to Washington for a meeting or Chicago to recruit a guy, just pay for the flight and the lunch, whatever. It's a couple $100. Like, that's not gonna kill you. And he looked at me, he said, if you do that for me for a whole year, I'll give you a job. And that was it. I said, that's all I need. And he said, okay, you start next week. So the following week, I flew to LA and I spent a couple of days in the office. The first thing he said to me, he handed me the Major League Baseball collective bargaining agreement and the MLBPA, the Players Associations regulations that govern agents. And he said, this is where you're going to start. You need to read both of these things and learn them inside out. That was my first lesson. So that's where I started.
We appreciate your time. If you like what you've heard so far, do me a favor and leave a 5-star review and share with your friends. We'll be right back. Three Bridges Consulting did the video on the recently rebranded NickWarnerConsulting.com. I really love the video because it helps me sell by speaking directly to my prospective clients. Dennis and Sean at Three Bridges Consulting are high-level storytellers for the purpose of helping my prospective coaching clients understand what differentiates me from the pack. A recent new coaching client literally said to me, "You don't need to sell me, Nick. Your video sold me. I understand what you do and how you'd work with me as a client." That is a true story. You know I love that. Contact 3BC at threebridgesconsulting.co. Ken and his team at Connect Strategies head up my post-rebrand digital marketing campaign. I'm moving up the rankings for business coaches and consultants quickly. Connect is 20 years in the business, and I feel like they're really focused on my account. I refer business coaching clients to Connect too, and I get really good reports on result, professionalism, and drive. Thank you, Connect. Contact Ken at KNECHT
And then, I went just like I've done in every project that I have taken on in my life. Like there's one thing about me, I do everything at 100 or I don't do it. I don't know what the midpoint is. Sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse.
Yeah.
But there's no in between with me. It's either 0 or 100. So I took on this, and I think I read everything within like 48 hours or 3 days. And then I was like, okay, I'm done. He's like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. And then he asked me a couple of questions and I answered them. And he's like, okay. And then he sent me to the office and I did some orientation, and and then they had me, hang out in the office and get to know the staff and ask questions. And I was watching everything. And then I started shadowing him, and I started recruiting for them, looking for players. I had an idea of what to look for, but then I got better and better. And in that first year, that was 2011, I think I signed like 6 or 7 guys that were in the big list within 2 years later. And they were just like role players, like fringe MLB guys. Now they were like MLB stars, guys that made significant money later. So at the end of 2011, after I spent that whole year shadowing him and learning the business, I had a year-end review with his partner. His name was Danny. And they offered me, they said that they were very happy with my performance and they were going to offer me a full-time job. an entry level full time job. I said, okay. I was very excited. They started me at 30,000. I was making 10 times that in Miami. But, I know in life sometimes you need to take one step back to be able to take two steps forward. And I knew I had kind of reached a ceiling in my job in nightlife. I knew the upside in this industry was much higher. So not like I had a lot of other choices, but I was just excited to work in baseball and build this and pursue this career. And luckily, Angela was working. She was very successful, so we were able to manage that beginning until he got off the ground. But 2012, 12 years ago, I took, first of all, I worked all of 2011 for free, which a lot of people can't comprehend. And they think, and I know, I've seen this throughout my career. You have people that just because they went to college and got a diploma, that they won't work for anyone for free. Well, guess what? There's other types of currencies in the world. Not everything is about money. Not everything is money. Like Rick Thurman paid me the first year with knowledge and time.
And shadowing his presence.
Yeah, he gave me access that has more value. That's worth more than 50,000, but that's worth more than 100,000. Like I can't put a dollar value in it. He paid me with that. A lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people, they just they come here and it's like, okay, how much are you gonna pay me? I was like, pay you for what? Like you don't add anything. I'm paying you by giving you an opportunity. But it's sometimes it's hard for people in the that goes through the education system in this country to see everything that is outside of money. You go to college and then you're supposed to, because this is how you've been trained your whole life, that you're going to go to college and then you're going to go apply for a job and you're going to get a salary and benefits with a 401k, and you're going to work there for 40 years, and then one day you're going to retire with a white picket fence and
And you shall monetize 40 hours a week and get paid for all your time.
yeah. So I don't think like that. I'm wired differently. That's how I started. And, $30,000, that's today probably $50,000.
Follow me here, Rob. Follow me here. We're going to skip a couple chapters. So when you go from getting started at Beverly Hills to now you're on your own, you've started your own firm, you've probably grown out of Beverly Hills, you've retreated out of and made a move from Wasserman. When we got on this call, Riley, our producer, was on with us at our mics and was doing sound check, and you and I were in the coolest conversation. You came in and said, I was listening to your last podcast of West Seneschal, and I was really taken by, and this is where we left off and came live, and I want to come back to it, really taken by how he's scaled, how he's thought about building. And you and I left off with, like, are you going to grow? Is it all going to be Rafa and Nieves? How are you going to do this? And so you started to say that conversation really gripped me. And I'd like to come back to that and hear more about your thought process on what you heard from that scaling or building conversation.
I was telling you before we started recording that I went to do my homework and I listened to some of your episodes to see the flow of the conversation, what it was like. And I listened to the last episode with Wes Seneschal. I went for a run and I listened to it while I was running, and I got hooked on it because I heard so many things on this guy that sounded like me, that I totally identify with his thought process, where he touched on something about his family and his kids that is something that I'm actually like going through right now. I'm at a point in my life where my kids are 3, 8, and 12. And we also have Bella, who's 18 and leaving to Oregon next week. But I'm in a point where, the kids take a lot of my time and energy. They have soccer, they have volleyball, they have drama, they have tutoring, they have birthday parties, they have play dates, they have dance. Like they have all of them had 3 or 4 extracurricular activities going on. And luckily, Angela is a stay-at-home mom right now and takes a lot of that. But when it's 3 kids, she can't do it by herself. So I have to be present. Not only that, but I want to be present because of, trauma that I have from losing my dad at 17. Sometimes I think like, well, Gabby's 12. What if I leave? What if I'm out of here in 5 years? I don't want her to miss out on time with me for anything. So I'm super present. Like I do pick up and drop off every day. I mean, I volunteer for me and Angela. We both volunteer for all the school activities like Halloween, Thanksgiving, all of these things. Like we're present at every stop for them. And I get this question a lot, like, are you gonna grow the business? Are you gonna go into other sports? And I could, but that's gonna come at the expense of my kids' childhood because that is not gonna be there. You ask Wes, it's like, well, does it come to a point where it says like how much money is enough money? And I ask myself the same question, like if I grow the company and make twice as much money or three times more money, is that necessary, or is it at the expense of not being present during my kids' childhood? Because this is very, you had two kids that grew up and they left. It's a very short window, like Gabby's 12, Lulu's 8, Asher's 3. In 12 years, they're not gonna be around. They're not gonna be around me. Asher will be 15. He's gonna be a 15-year-old boy who's not gonna want to hang out with me, and the girls will be all out of the house
Asher's going to be overseas playing soccer at 15, by the way.
or baseball. Yeah. So that's where my head is at, and I battle with that because I want to grow the business, but I also want to be here present for them for the next 12 years. So which one outweighs the other? And to me, my kids outweigh everything. I look at them like it's like three startup companies, like all three of them is a little entity, is a little startup that I can't take my eyes off because otherwise they're gonna fail. So, and these are the most valuable companies in my life. Like they have no value. This is my Facebook, my Google, and my Nvidia.
Yeah.
And they're at the early stages. So I can't abandon those to go, grow this one that is just gonna give me money.
Sure, you can. People do it all the time. You're being purposeful. I didn't know this part of you till I started to get to know you on a rooftop in West Hollywood. I got to know you a little better outside of just your business presence, and I started to understand better. And then you invited me into your life and opened up to me. And when I asked you what motivates you, you looked at me and you said, "My family." I didn't know that, but that's not enough. The words aren't enough. You have to make decisions, conscious decisions at your level of success to say no, to maybe not grow or to grow smartly. You're making purposeful decisions, is what I
Yeah,
hear.
and look, I'm 41. In 12 years, I'll be 53. I'm still young, and in 12 years, when they're grown and out of the house, maybe I'll find that extra gear and put all my energy and time into growing this company, and then in my 60s, I'll build this multi-sport huge business and then sell into the horizon. But today I can't do it because it will come at the expense of my kids, and then I have to be present for them. I have to be here for dinner. I have to be at their play. I'm not gonna miss any of that. And I see that in the environment that I live in, where there's a lot of parents who are not present. I take Lulu to soccer practice, and none of the parents are there. It's usually the nanny. And you take Asher to the playground, and it's all nannies. And the parents are skiing or at the hair salon. It's like I didn't grow up like that. Angela didn't grow up like that. So we want to be present. We want to build them up the best we can, and that's my priority. And that's when I listen to Wes talking about and feeling the same way that it clicked, because I sometimes I feel like when I think about these things, I think I'm wrong, because like I should be growing the company, I should be scaling this out, and I feel like I'm failing because I'm stuck. I'm gonna plateau very soon, and it's not gonna grow and I should be, but at the same time, like I don't want to jump on a flight to New York and be away for 5 days for them. I can do that in 12 years.
Yeah, you can also have your cake and eat it too. I mean, you're pretty much having your cake and eating it too right now. You're getting what you want from your career. Maybe you're leaving the top end, but you're doing just fine and then some, and you're attentive as a father. But I've spent considerable time with you over the years in various settings. To be honest, most of it glitzy and big fun, but we've been having more and more like car time together. I've seen how busy you are minute to minute. You still have to balance like you watch the games, you watch the individual at bats, and then there's 4 kids in the house right now that you're trying to be attentive to, and a wife, and like even a friend, or an associate like me. How do you do that?
They're starting to watch the games with me.
Ah, all right. And I know you're
Yeah.
not kidding. You're actually serious about that.
Well, yeah, it's funny because now the kids are growing up and like they know the Oscar very well, and they like Theo got hurt, a week, 2 weeks ago. He got hit on the foot and he was taken out. And I was getting messages from Gabby, my 12-year-old. I was at the game and she was texting me. She's like, "Is Theo okay?" And Angela was texting me. She's like, "The kids are worried because the game was on. They had the game on TV, and they saw that he got pulled out of the game and he got hurt." And I take them to Dodger Stadium all the time, and they meet the players, so they're invested. They have their bobbleheads, they have pictures with them, and
So them getting older, allowing you to integrate them into some of these things and have it be a little bit fun. It's taking some edge off and makes it fun for you guys because of what you're in sports.
yeah. And Angela is very invested. She knows all our guys. They know her. It's part of our family. It's part of our home, and being something that is a luxury of having a small business and a boutique agency where we're a community. Like all my guys know each other. Like Jose Ramirez knows the Oscar knows Luis Castillo, and Luis Castillo knows Victor Robles. Like they all small community. They all know each other. They all know they're represented by me. So they come to my house. We're more than just an agency. It's like a brotherhood. It's like a community, and I try to make it like that. So part of the ways that I build that is also they're very integrated in my family. They know my kids. They know Angela. I think that helps my family also when I have to step away because I need to watch this game in my office.
They understand.
They understand. It's like it's like if Angela's upstairs doing her nails. It's the same thing, and I'm in the office watching Luis Castillo pitch.
So on the way home from the game we were at together, it was interesting because we went a couple hours early because you had to, or you wanted to spend some time with the 3 players you had playing in that game with their families. But there was a brother there because there was a bobblehead night, a wife there, kids there. I was really impressed, and I was able to meet some of your clients in a non-fanboy type of way. And I tried not to say stupid stuff because I'm a total fanboy, especially of Teoscar Hernandez. But on the way home, I said to you, really impressed by your clients. They were all really down to earth and nice people. And you said some version of, with a really cool smile on your face, like over time, I don't know if they look like me or I look like them, but I'm gravitating towards certain people and away from other types of people, which is you've gotten more leverage in the market. I can see that you used it to level up the humanity of your client list. At least that was my observation.
Eventually, I think your clients are a reflection of you and vice versa. I'm also a reflection of them. Like, look, I've represented Theo for 12, almost 13 years now. We couldn't, you couldn't have this relationship for that long if you don't have the same type of values. And same with the other guys. Like I represented Jose Ramirez for 14 years now, 13 years. Sorry. That's one thing that I've noticed, and it's not by design, but a lot of my guys, all the GMs, they speak highly of them, their makeup in the clubhouse, on the field, their attitude, you've seen Theo play all year. He's a great clubhouse guy, always a smile on his face, always respectful. Like, you're not going to find any of my guys starting brawls on the field or getting DUIs or, punching someone at a bar. Like, because that's something that I will never do. And I think if you have that type of makeup, eventually our relationship is not going to work. And I've seen it in the past. There's star players in the league right now that I had before, and it didn't work because we just don't click. They just have different values and different personalities, and eventually, in the long run, it's only going to work out with the guys that see the world the same way you do.
Unless you're money, 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 in which case you stack, but you're not stacking.
Yeah. I've had very good players that I told them to go get another agent. I won't name names, but there's cases like that where, they treat me disrespectfully. They talk to me, they talk down to me, and I'm like, bro, like,
You're off my client list. Bye-bye.
yeah. And he's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah. Like, money doesn't drive. Like, money's not my drive. That's not my motivation.
Yeah.
And if the only thing that you're adding to me is money down the line, like, I don't care. Like,
I
get
want to
out.
ask you about two things in particular as we wrap up that are, I honestly, I could go in another hour, so I'm struggling to figure out which weighty question I want to put in front of you because it's all so interesting. But you said to me that you've lost your love for the sport to some degree as I went to the game in like full Dodger blue and regalia and all these goofy things. You said you've lost your love for the sport. And the reason I bring it up here is, most everybody that's listening to the show, like Wes is a good example. He's a communications executive. We've interviewed movie producers, we've interviewed lobbyists, lawyers, high tech executives, and this thing where you get into something because you love something, and then the business can kind of beat it out of you is a common theme. How have you experienced that, and what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I gave you a little bit of background. I started playing and loving baseball at 3 years old, pretty much. And I started playing at 6. I grew up a Yankees fan, die hard. Don Mattingly was my favorite player because when I was very young, I was the tallest in my team. So they put me to play first base. So first base, if you're tall, you can catch, the bat throws up here. So yeah, I grew up a diehard Yankees fan, and just a baseball fan in general. I still am, but I do see learn that this is a business. I see the flaws. I see some things that I don't agree with. I see the way teams operate a lot of times, how they treat players like assets, and I understand why, and I understand how they do it, but sometimes I don't know, it's too transactional. And yeah, that takes a beating. I don't, that beats me up sometimes. So you lose that fandom and that love for the game when you see when you see the machine inside of it.
Yeah, I think my observation, you've transferred your love of the game, although not in total. I mean, I've been to a game with you. You still, have plenty of like a nasty curveball or a slider I saw a change up strike your client out. It seemed you had like all kinds of passion for the game at that point. But I think you've transferred some of that love and passion to your clients. Like you really passionate about your people.
I'm watching Shohei Ohtani. I don't think we're ever going to see something like this in our lifetime again, and I admire it. Things like that, like, when I like watching greatness. I like witnessing greatness and good stuff. But that diehard love fandom for the game is not there anymore.
But am I right? Have you transferred a lot of that passion to your players?
Oh yeah. That I love, like that I root for. Like, oh my god, yeah.
That was one of the coolest days of my business coaching and just, I guess, personal fan life too, because I had both business coaches and fan/friend of yours goggles on, but like, it was really, really cool to watch you work that stadium. Like I would work a room, I'd work the Capitol, I'd work a conference. I mean, it's not cheesy, it's substance based, and you did that really well. And I saw a lot of passion transfer from baseball to people. Another thing I want to ask you about, last thing is, and it's going to sound leading, Rafa, but it's not leading, and I'd be foolish not to ask you this, but I'm not leading you to give me a specific answer here. I coach more and more where I realized the issue we're at deficit on is competitive spirit. It's not you didn't understand this. It's not darn it, I missed it. It's until you have a competitive spirit about you that is like, oh, this is not happening on my watch, or like, oh, I will get this done, or tell Rafa no, watch his face. What are your thoughts about making it in competitive spirit and where that plays in?
It's highly important. I was actually running on Saturday with one of my good friends. He was an entrepreneur, multi-company founder, and he just started this business that is doing really well. He actually last year he raised like $30 million, and he's scaling this business like crazy. And we're running, and we're talking about, and I don't know how we got into this, but he was looking at. We started talking about his hiring process, And he told me that he's been, when he sees a resume or he interviews someone, that he stresses or he pays close attention to their athletic resume and what they did in sports, because that competitiveness that you build playing sports translates to the work field, and those people usually are the most successful ones. um I don't, I can't tell you, I mean, from my own experience, you build that competitiveness, um that competitive spirit playing sports from a young age. And I can't stress enough how important it is. If you don't have that type A competitiveness personality, you could be good, but you're not going to be great. And I like being great.
Let's leave it right there. I don't know how to end it any better than that. Rafa, you did an amazing job on this podcast. We all really appreciate the opportunity to learn from you. Thank you to our fantastic team at Podigy Podcast. Special thanks to our producer, Riley Byrne, Megan Tuck, Hillary White, and Mark Byrne. And great job to Alex Warner on research. Thanks for joining us and for another great episode, and see you next month on Together at the Top. Thank you so much for your time. Together at the Top thrives off listeners like you. To stay connected, follow our socials in the show notes and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll be releasing our show on the last Tuesday of every month. See you next time. At Nick Warner Consulting, we exist to coach and consult motivated professionals. I meet with you on Zoom in focused 90-minute sessions, working toward your goals and developing next-level business skill sets. My job is to add value to your organization and your career. To learn more, visit www.nickwarnerconsulting.com or call me directly at 916-765-3576.